Well, hello everyone, Dan Hurd Prospecting here. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome. I hope to earn your subscription today. This is going to be a shorter video, just an update on the blue chip mine. That is not the blue chip mine. No. In my series on the blue chip mine, I was going to tell you all about the assay results. Those didn't come back until after the series had been released. So I promised an update. So here's a short update on those assay results. They look amazing. So I had taken 4 samples from 4 different locations around the blue chip mine, around Adit 3 and 5, because that's where the hot spots have been. And one of them was my Adit 5 location, where it's kind of a joke. There's no Adit there. It's where I would drive an Adit in the future if I was to, continue, because I've found so much free milled gold right there. The second was a pyrrhotite hot pocket, sort of halfway between 5 and 3. No, not at 4. But halfway between 5 and 3, there was a pocket on the ground of the black sulfides, the pyrrhotite. I also took a sample just outside Adit number 3. That's that big vein that I dropped the rock. I took like 500 pounds from there, huge amount. And then we had a sample from the pocket itself inside Adit 3. That's the pocket where we got those great gold specimens. We got huge amounts of gold out of there. The floor in the Adit right below it was just littered in gold. That was definitely the hot spot. And before I get into numbers, I do have to say that taking a sample from a known pocket of gold is not a great assay. It's not a representative sample of the mine. We know those numbers are going to be high just because of where we took it. But we knew that getting into it, that full disclosure, we knew those numbers were going to be high because of where we took that sample from. Now, in my last video from the series, I said that I got the preliminary results back, and 2 of the 4 samples came back over limit in gold. So the first assay they do this assay that is extremely accurate. It pulls numbers from down to like 0.001 of a gram per ton of elements that they're looking for just traces of in the ore. If your ore has too much gold, that assay does not give results. It goes up to 10 grams per ton. Anything after that, it just does not give you results. So if you have a really hot sample, it's called over limit on gold because that only goes up to that point. Then they have to do a second type of assay where they can actually find larger quantities in the ore. It's just not nearly as accurate. I think it's accurate down to 0.5 of a gram per ton. So 2 of my samples we weren't able to get full results of for the video because they had to rerun them with a assay that will detect higher volumes, higher percentages of gold in the ore. 2 of my assays, the one from Adit 5 and the one from outside Adit 3, came in at very low gold numbers. So they were fine on the first assay type. So let's talk about these in order. So as I said, outside Adit number 5, very low numbers. That's that big, thick quartz vein. Rolled the rock. I took like 500 pounds out of there, and it came in at extremely low, like 0.1 gram per ton of gold, which is essentially nothing. So that huge vein was barren. The quartz was barren. That sample didn't come from the pyrite pocket that I did discover after I took those samples. Adit number 5, the sample I took from that wall where I found all that free mill gold in the past, I thought for sure we were going to get big numbers from, but it came in really low actually. It was 0.5 grams per ton of gold. I will show you all the numbers here in a second, but just talking about gold to start with. It was 0.5 grams per ton of gold, and that is way lower than I would have expected from an area that showed free milled gold. It wasn't a huge sample, and I have really worked that spot in the past to get all the free milled gold I could from it. So maybe I did a good job, and there just wasn't any left on that wall from those chips that I took. Now, the first of the exciting samples is that pocket on the ground of pyrrhotite. I found this pocket by waving the metal detector over years ago, and all of a sudden it waved over a spot that sounded like someone had buried a tank. It just screamed. It dug down, it dug straight into this pyrrhotite pocket. Just black, oozy, nasty, ugly sulfide. Pyrrhotite is an iron sulfide that has too much sulfur in it or not enough iron. The ratios are wrong. It's sort of like iron pyrite, but not quite. That pocket came back with numbers way higher than I expected. We ended up with 40 grams per ton of gold. That's well over an ounce. That's almost an ounce and a half per ton of gold in that pyrrhotite pocket. That was exciting. I did not expect that at all. So that's a great result. And the best result, of course we knew it would be the best result, was the pocket material from inside Adit 3. That is a spot we've pulled multiple nuggets out. Jason found that a beautiful specimen in there, and the floor below it was just loaded in fine gold. That one came back at, wait for it, 5 ounces per ton in that pocket. That is awesome. Now, that's not surprising. Old assay results from back in the 70s, which assayed all around there, showed an assay from that exact same spot, which came in at, guess what? 5 ounces per ton. So we confirmed those old assays were accurate with our own assay. That vein, very small vein, very hard to get into, has some very rich ore. 5 ounces per ton is like bonanza type ore. But that vein is very small, not really commercially mineable, but great for something like what I'm doing. Some other numbers of note. Silver, both the pyrrhotite pocket and that vein in Adit 3, which is a pyrrhotite vein, came back roughly an ounce per ton of silver, which isn't great for silver numbers. Silver numbers you want really high to make it viable, but it is nice to know, and it is significant enough to take note of. There is a good amount of silver in both of those spots. The pyrrhotite pocket, almost 50-50. Well, it was like, I think 28 grams per ton silver, 40 gold. And inside, I think it was 30 grams per ton silver. So silver is there. It is an economical, mineable ore, metal, but those numbers, the gold is more interesting for sure. Something else that was a very high, I mean extremely high, which we knew it would be, was the arsenic numbers. The one pocket, I think it was the pyrrhotite pocket that we're talking about, came back at 10,000 parts per million arsenic. That's 1%. So 1% of the ore is arsenic, and I think it only came in at 10,000 because that was over limit for arsenic. So it didn't give me an accurate number. It went up to 10,000 and it just couldn't measure any higher than that. They don't rerun for arsenic. There's really no point. So high arsenic, but that's not surprising considering the ore is pyrrhotite arsenopyrite ore that the gold is in. Just thinking right now, I said a second ago that 10,000 parts per million is 1%. I'm wondering if that's 10%. I don't have my calculator right here right now, but I think that's 10%. I'll have to look it up and I'll leave it here on the screen somewhere. I say that because the bismuth numbers are kind of the fun, exciting one. They don't really mean much for, the economics of the ore. But my site here has this telluride called I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name. It's really weird. It's a bismuth telluride. So it's 2 molecules of bismuth attached to 3 molecules of tellurium. And tellurides are actually fairly rare, and they're a great indicator of gold. Tellurium and gold are almost the exact same molecule. They are treated the same, they act the same, they're so similar. And where you find tellurides, you often find gold. And we have a telluride here that's attached to a bismuth. Unlike Jason's mine, where his telluride is attached to gold, mine's attached to bismuth. And the bismuth numbers of the pocket came back at 1,000 parts per million Is that 1%? I'm not sure. 1,000 parts per million of bismuth, which means it's about 1,500 parts per million telluride or tellurium, which tellurium is way more rare than gold. Way more rare than gold. But because there's no real commercial uses of tellurium, it's not really a sought after or an expensive metal. They use it in, I think there's something in cell phones that use it. There's something in solar panels that use it, but it's not really a sought after metal. So there's no real value in it. I'll figure out what the value is and I'll leave it here on the screen, but it's nothing compared to the value of gold. And in the smelting process, we actually lose the tellurides off the top, but that's not a big deal because there's not much value there. But it is very interesting. My bismuth telluride is over, well, the bismuth is 1,000 parts per million. The telluride is 1,500 parts per million. So together it's like 2,500 parts per million. Tellurium, bismuthian tellurium something or another. Yeah, that's it. Jason is very ashamed that I'm not pronouncing this even close to right now. Anyhow, bismuth and tellurium, very high at the mine, especially in the pure-type pocket. Now, anything else of note? Lead numbers were very small, so even considering there was silver there, the silver is definitely not tied up in a galena because the lead numbers were very small. So that's good news. Iron numbers very high, up to 33% on some of the assay numbers. So the iron pure-type, we know it's a pure-type vein, very, very high. We had some things like antimony in there. There were some other minor traces that were notable, but not really important for anything. The XRF that was showing us we had mercury in our ore was obviously wrong. All 4 assays came back at 0 mercury, or less than detectable mercury. That's good to know. And very, very happy with these results. Shocked. Not shocked. We knew that 5 ounces per 10 was going to come through like that. I thought it might actually even be higher considering where we took that sample from. But very happy with these assay results from the blue chip mine. So here they are one more time, all put out in a chart form. And yeah, hopefully this update answers any of your last questions. That's it for the blue chip mine for this season. As spring hits, it kind of overgrows. It gets grown in with stinging nettle and all that other stuff. So we will hit it again in the fall and winter and do another work program up there when the time comes. Hope you enjoyed the whole series on the blue chip mine. I will leave a link in the description to all the different videos from this season's work program. And yeah, we'll see you at the blue chip 9 next year. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave that thumbs up. If I haven't earned your subscription yet, I hope I earned it today. And a big thanks to everyone for watching. Until the next one. Bye.